Hi everyone, I'm Sudeshna Sen. I'm your host and founder of Pionyr, which is a go to network for women founders and entrepreneurs. This is an interactive session, so feel free to drop in your questions in the chat as we go. We will keep an eye on it to cover as many of your questions as possible. But before we dive in, we'd love to learn more about you, so please drop it in the chat. So let's get started. So I'm excited for today's conversation because we'll be diving into the exciting world of portfolio entrepreneurship. We'll discuss really what it takes to be a portfolio entrepreneur, as in, building and scaling multiple ventures, navigating the highs and lows of, again, building multiple ventures. So this discussion, I think, is great for anyone who's building multiple ventures, but also for those who are building their first one. So stick around, and what you will learn and hopefully walk away with is actionable strategies to build and scale multiple ventures, hopefully a new mindset and a new path forward to manage it all. So, with that, I'm thrilled to welcome Mai Moore. She is a portfolio entrepreneur and also a member of Pioneer. And what's fascinating is that Mai has founded four companies, taken two public. So, with that, welcome Mai to Pioneer webinar. Why don't we start with you telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. First of all, Sudeshna, you know I love you. You're such a good soul, and I'm so grateful to you. And it's so great to see people that we've been in the same path and journey. Thank you for being here. And those that I don't know, thank you so much. And I just want to, before we get into this conversation, say like I have no fear today. Like I'm in that mode of like I'm going to be super truthful and real. I have nothing to hide. And it's only to just share from experience. And I'm always constantly learning from you guys too. And I've made a million mistakes. Just want to make that clear. So if you don't know me, I call myself hashtag almost social impact now. I'm all about awakening awareness so that people can see more clearly to lead better. Yes, my background, I helped two companies go public, Travelzoo and United Online. I switched gears, co-founded a nonprofit called EYEJ, which is all about empowering young change makers. Served 2,000 young people there, and that was more on the government policy, social action side, and nonprofit. And then became a chief now, what, over 3 years ago, and was really paying attention to what was happening with women, the great resignation stuff, pay gap, DEI, you guys know the drill. And created a company with many chiefs. I see some people here who were part of that initial journey. Created a company called Boss Me In, which is a for-profit company, really being a bridge to close the intergenerational gap. So very focused on intergenerational leadership, made a zillion mistakes there. And then this year, well, actually, no, during that process, I created another company which has nothing to do with social impact, which is really more on the live streaming side, which has been the quickest, fastest money I've ever had to do. Just to be very clear, I don't recommend like people become portfolio entrepreneurs, so, especially at the same time, and we can talk about that later. But I had to do that to support the work of Boss Me In, which is really screwed up. But then this year, I have decided to really kind of let go of Boss Me In as far as like the everyday day to day because I just couldn't do it all and really focus more on the Mai Moore brand, really focusing on public speaking. Got a chance to speak at Harvard, speaking at A&E Global in October, and like a lot of different kind of chief events and stuff, which I'm really grateful for. And yeah, I'm sure I'm involved more, but yeah, that's just some of it.
What a fascinating background you have, Mai. So the first question I have for you is like, what drew you to, building multiple ventures to portfolio entrepreneurship? Did you always know you want to build more, or is it more like, as you said, you had to have the cash flow to build something you wanted, and that's where it all started?
That's a great question. Yeah, I never went into it saying, "Oh, I want to create multiple ventures," and maybe I had the ideas in mind, but wanted to space things out to in a healthy way. But yeah, I think it's like many of us women, whether it's that you're in entrepreneurship or not, like a lot of us, and especially Gen Z, are creating multiple different ventures at the same time. And I think a lot of that comes from, in some ways, survival, right? I had to, with Boss Me In, figure out. and understand that Bosnian needed time. It needed time to build. It's complex, prove out the impact, but then pivot, and, all those stages to really allow it to flourish. And so, yeah, I think that I created another company um, for cash. I mean, I think that's absolutely the truth. Because yes, I have other ideas. There's other things that I want to build and create, but I never thought in my mind like I want to do it at the same time, if that makes any sense. And then with the Mai Moore brand, I just felt, I'm a very intuitive person. I'm very visionary, and I just felt like it was a pivot for me personally. Like I had been giving so much to people in so many different ways for the last 13 years. And I had moved back to New York City in January. And I was, really just asking myself, like, what have I been doing these last 13 years? And it was just a moment. And I continue on this moment of just really being like, wait a minute, I do hold some answers here. I have been awakening awareness. And I do need to take care of myself too. And I personally have some messages too. And I'm not saying this is the right or wrong way. I think that I've just been I'm a giver. And I think with Boss Me In and EYJ, it was really about giving and empowering and sharing knowledge and working with other great leaders and empowering them and, really getting voice out there or whatever it is, the impact that we have done together. It was really never about me, even though people assume that sometimes it was. And so, yes, the My More brand now is definitely about me for sure. But in fact, it's not really about me either. So it's a interesting journey. But I just to be very clear, like where I am right now is very much about alignment. I'm very in tune with the world, and I'm very in a moment of taking a stand because I think that us as women have not been confident enough to be like, you know what? I'm not going to freaking keep proving myself. I'm not going to keep on creating that impact that you asked me for and really make a demand to say, you know what? I need to be funded in the appropriate way to thrive and do great work. And that takes time to build that confidence and to really finally get some alignment across all these brands or whatever it is, companies that I've created, and really be in a stance to say, you know what? If I'm not funded properly, I'm not showing up. I got my other business over here that's doing really, really well. And I'm also really caring about my personal life right now. I'm choosing me right now. So, and I know I'm not alone in this. I know there's a lot of chiefs or women that are in the same place, kind of more internally in quiet conversations with themselves. It's just sick of the bullshit, sick of it.
Couldn't agree more,
But
Mike.
guess what? We have to own that. Like we're tired of that and demand it.
100%, Mai. I think a lot of us, I'm sure, if not most of us, are already in that place. So to the audience, if you guys, if I sent a poll, so if you are portfolio entrepreneur, or serial entrepreneur, first time, just put it in so we have a better sense of the audience, who you are, where you stand. So building on what Mai you just shared, like you have, you, as you said, you're taking a stance and you have built a lot of different ventures that really are meaningful to you. So looking back and looking across these ventures, what would you say is, what one myth that, we as founders or we as women founders, deal with that doesn't really hold true that you realized across while building many?
Hmm, that's a hard one. Um, hmm, I think the I want to go to the money. I want to go to the money because we don't talk about it enough. Um, the money is definitely out there. It definitely, in my opinion, depends on relationships. It depends on, the funder's interest area. I think that we're advertising it too much freely, that it's just readily available in some ways. And then on the other side, we are being honest and saying, okay, only 2% of funding, is available to women and persons of color and all that kind of stuff. But what are we doing about it? Like we're not, um, how do I say this? We're just, what are we doing about it? You know, like you look at the lean in studies. I mean, you guys know this. Nothing has changed over the last 10 years, right? Nothing, right? And are we willing as women to keep on this effing track for the next 80 to 100 years? No, I really want to know because we act like it. We're playing status quo. We're not, we don't have really the courage to fucking speak up. And the ones that are fucking speaking up are fucking exhausted, right? And I know it's scary, but like guys, keep on getting those whatever we want to call them, allies, partners, and men involved and all that. But it's like I think a lot of us have had enough. We've had enough. We are worthy. We hold answers. We are amazing entrepreneurs. We are thinking about community. We are thinking about people. We hold solutions. We've proven ourselves already. But then we keep on playing the game. Okay, yeah, I need to prove a little more impact. Yeah, I need to do a little bit. No, I need to, do another whatever, pitch that. No, fuck that shit. I mean, that's just where I'm at. Sorry, but I'm just, guys, if we keep feeding the game, we are part of the problem.
Amen to everything you said, Mai. Feel free, audience. Anyone who wants to chip in, feel free
Um,
to share your
I want to speak to a few things that Maya said about the whole lean in. I met one of the women I want to say many years ago, who she did a talk at our work for a rocket company. She was a co-writer of Lean In, I think. I met her for the first time and she did a talk. She was terrible. She was not everything that we heard and saw and everything. She was part of the problem is boxing women into a box of what you should be doing. She spoke to a group of engineers. We were building a rocket. She was speaking to a group of engineers and tell them they need to do software engineering and these are women who are building fucking rockets. And then they ask her, well, why would you think that you have to do that? And then she just kind of talk at them. She is clearly are doing the way she spoke. She is feeding the same narrative as some of the toxic women, men that are doing. Like it actually really speak to everything you just said. My like it's the unauthenticity about. I'm not trashing her for the sake of trashing her. It's about the unauthentic part of when the movement's happening, and it's just a lot of them for show, but a lot of real
Yeah,
work
fucking
haven't been
bullshit.
done. It haven't been done. It's all on the surface, and that's why people aren't seeing
But
as
but
many,
we but
as
we as
much
women are
truth.
allowing that.
And so
We are
some is
allowing
allow
it.
we're allowing it, and some are for whatever reason are perpetuating too, right? Like
Yeah.
we're allowing that. Some of us are thinking, oh, okay, we're good, and then some are just like, oh, this is if I if I if I side with this kind of a narrative, I'm gonna be the hero. And I think we need to be a little bit more authentic about it. And I
Guys,
think
we got
work
to get
need
over our fucking ego.
actual work needs to
We got
happen.
to get over
People
the
need
ego.
Yeah, we need to talk
Guys,
to people on a regular basis. How can, like, we really need to help each other in a way that is not, oh, I know somebody and then that's it, and more
no.
like check in
Yeah.
on people. Like, how are you getting
Community support.
funding? How else can I help you? Like more one-on-one,
What we
more
need to
tactical
do
work.
is make demands in a collective way to those that have real power. And a lot of us are associated with an organization that has real power, that has no fucking courage, that
Yep.
can make real change against status quo. This is what we're talking about. It is a time to fucking step up to the plate, especially if we're demanding and talking about women leadership. I don't care if you're an entrepreneur, whatever we are. Because it's of course it's hard to do it on an individual level. We have to come together. Put aside the fucking ego, put aside the fucking entitlement, And yes, we need the big fucking players. And we are all associated. I mean, most of us here are associated with that big fucking player in some way.
So, Mai, let's dive a little bit deeper into this. So,
That's
you
no.
mentioned
All right.
funding, and part of like building multiple ventures involves funding decisions. So, how are you approaching funding? Because I see that you're approaching in a unique way, and I'd love for you to share with the audience how are you approaching funding? How are you raising capital across your multiple ventures?
All right. So just some background. I definitely have experience. I'm not. I would never, ever, ever call myself an expert in this area, or I'd be a very different place. But I have just I have a lot of integrity, and I've also always been very careful about who fund means. I've turned away offers. I have funding experience, for profit, nonprofit, tech. I do have experience in that ways. Again, I am not an expert. Um, I think we've talked about this, Sudeshna, in this state of the world right now. There are no fucking rules. There are no rules. There in funding and in really anything, but in funding. So where I'm at right now is, listen, I need to raise 1.4 million, and it's going to be across all my entities, whether for profit or nonprofit, and put it out there. And I think that, yes, I do think that individual, whatever, investors or donors are a way for a path forward, because it allows for authenticity. Once you get into the VCs, I'm sure a lot of you have an experience, it changes things. You lose authenticity, you lose control, especially when you're in the early stages. But I also think, and I have to think about my own demonstration of leadership right now in a very hard time for funding, is make the revenue. I mean, I create another company, like the money, make revenue. That way you don't really have to answer to anybody. So it's a personal choice. And I think get people involved in different ways. You know, I've just done 10 podcast interviews with white men. Never had done something like that before. Who are literally change. I mean, this is I feel such a blessing. Who are literally truly care about, you know, humanity, and who are really creating change. So my point is, we have to think outside the box. I don't know if women, um, you know, groups or whatever, angel funds, and I'm not sure if that's really the answer right now, because I feel like a lot of times women, we're not supporting each other. We're making it over complex when, guess what? Someone like me who's proven myself over and over and over, I just need a check handed to me. So again, it's about, yes, communication, messaging out there. It's about keeping voicing things within our own safety, and you know, not stressing ourselves out. But can we find other people who truly believe in the cause? And this is another thing, especially with Boss Me. And do people really care about women? And that's something that I'm grappling with right now, because I feel like the world is changing, because it's no longer, to me, a men versus women thing. Sometimes if we do that, we're boxing ourselves in, right? How can we, it's no longer Gen Z versus exactly, it's not thing, you know, it's not siloed anymore. So can we get creative and look at things outside the box? I mean, these are just questions that I have too myself. I do believe that there are great people out there who are financially capable of investing, who are interested in investing. I mean, I know they're there, and in different ways that we may have originally thought. Um, but I'm going to put it out there. I mean, I think you guys all know it's difficult right now. It's difficult. And so should we be relying on that? You know, and you guys know this, you already have 800 things to do, and then you got to think about fundraising too. So what I learned, I had to take a pause from fundraising for like a year, because it's a full-time job. And so I just was like, let me grind and make some money. So it's a tricky one, because we also have to think about our health, you know. Um, health is number one for me right now.
Agreed. We are just juggling too many things, Mai. To your point, like, you have to know how best to navigate and it based on what's right for you.
Yeah.
One related question, Mai, that I get a lot from founders who are building multiple ventures is that, what are some of the things I should be thinking legally or structurally? Because now you're building multiple ventures. So you have, different ventures have different equity splits, different IP ownerships, compliance, and all of that. So how did you navigate all of this as you are building?
I made mistakes. It's the only way. No, with Boss Man, I when I first came on, I'm like, I need the best legal team, and I brought on, well, yeah, like the big corporate legal team, spent $20,000 on documents that another law firm would have charged me 2,000 for. I just felt like we needed quarterbacks to really protect women, and so that was a mistake that I made. I do have a great legal team. If you guys don't know Venturia's Counsel, I don't know if I spelled that right. I can give you the contact. Love them. They are truly about women and making impact and real and authentic and knowledgeable and trustworthy. But if you're just starting out, that's a big question because it depends like how, what's your plan? How big do you want to be? What type of entity is it? What's the mission? What kind of products will you have? Who is it impacting? Blah, blah, blah. Because it's very different. Like if you are just planning on being like a consultancy, like you don't need to be a C Corp, right? And so, yeah, you got to weigh those options. I think a lot of you are having conversations with people, thinking through this, but I also think if you can afford it, spend Venturis is very fairly priced. Spend the 250 and get their legal advice too, because they do know what they're talking about. That's my 2 cents. I don't know if that's helpful or not.
Absolutely, Mai. Any questions from the audience on, say, funding or legal or structural questions or decisions you are navigating as you're building more than one or building just your one venture?
I guess I have a question, like in terms of funding, like how do you know what's like the right number to go and like raise for? Because it's like you don't want to pick something, I guess, like too low, too high. How do you kind of find that sweet number and like what's your rough formula for that?
That's a big question. First of all, you want to be very conservative in this market. But the answer is really, I can't answer that. It's up to your plan, like how much revenue. Here's the answer. Here's the answer. What do you need?
Hmm.
Right? In a realistic way, you're not getting funding to get rich off the bat. You're getting funding to support the concrete needs in order to reach the goals of your plan from a revenue ROI standpoint, all that, right? I think what's tricky in my case is it's always been about people, because you need people to grow the business. And I think a lot of times some funders are into that and some funders are not. So meaning like I had an 80-20 split, like 80% would be operations, i.e. people, and the rest would be, whatever, operation administrative stuff and all that kind of stuff. So I'm a little bit different maybe. But I think it has to go back to as an entrepreneur, here's a number one thing besides persistence. That's number one key. But number two is you have to be confident in your numbers. It's all a story when you're going to a funder. So if you are confident, if you can back up your numbers, you can justify, what this is the impact is going to be. How much will the funder make? That's all they really care about. How much will they, and maybe a little bit of your story. How much will they make in return? You keep on that and you repeat yourself over and over and over.
Okay. And then I guess like I'm kind of thinking of what you said, like so I'm like a developer, so it's like sometimes it's just about me doing the work. Like when is it an okay time to say like, oh, I just need to pay myself a certain amount just to like pay the rent or the food, you
What do you
know?
need, Mabel?
Uh,
You got to own it.
yeah.
We so many times, me too. I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been when, with EYJ. I was fucking homeless. I was a single mother, risked everything to push EYJ forward. This is real, right? And
Mhm.
I'm not recommending that, but I believed in EYJ so much. But what my point is as women, so many times we push ourselves to the side. We don't pay attention to the health. We push out what we need and then are thinking about others, right? what the business, we have to fund this, cost this. No, we need to have that support first so we can be healthy and produce.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. It's hard. It's not easy.
That's true. That's so true. And it's like I think the story's always like, oh, just, keep going with it. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like it's annoying that it's looked down upon, but it's like it's usually like from people that have the cushion, right?
Yeah. But I think, okay, so let's be fair here.
Yeah.
If you're a first time founder, yes, you do need to prove yourself. Okay. This is the truth because no one knows you as this founder, right? And they don't know your product. Yeah, you need to put impact out there, get that MVP. This is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
This is the truth. And this is where I've made mistakes is I get that MVP out there, then I keep proving. I keep proving. I keep proving, right? That's where we as women have to be a little more because we're fed into the you have to keep proving. And we're killing literally this industry right now is literally murdering entrepreneurs. I don't know how else to say it in English. And I'm not being dramatic. I'm being very real. I've had conversations with VCs about this. People, their eyes open. What? We're murdering entrepreneurs. Yeah, you're fucking killing us. And it's not funny. It's literally, I think Gretchen brought this, others brought this up. It's just like the cycle in the ghetto. Like it's the same shit. But yet we continue to see the 98% Silicon Valley, the white male. We continue to see that.
So Saira has a question, Mai, for you. So she is juggling two big jobs while building her business. So any structured ways to do this? Because there's a lot that she's managing through.
Listen, I'm just going to be real because I used to paint the picture like us women can have it all. And yes, we want balance. I I don't know if that's realistic, right? I had to give up my personal life, um, balance between being a single mom, and running these businesses forward. It's very hard. I mean, I don't, this is a question for all of us to try to figure out. Um, you have no life. But that's also, see, it's tricky because as part of entrepreneurship, you need to be obsessive about your business. You need to be obsessive about your mission. You need to be so passionate, almost like you're in a relationship. So it's very tricky to have that balance. Some are better than others. I think you have to make sure and be responsible that you have the space to do it because it's a commitment. It's a relationship. It's a baby.
Yeah, I think my question, is like a lot of people have told me go into the YC accelerator for 3 months. And I just there's no like if I do that, I can't work and I can't fund my startup, right? And so it's like how do people who are doing bootstrapping afford to do that, go into YC for like 3 months to make those connections? There has to be like other better ways, but I don't know. I mean, that my biggest thing, Pioneer's been great, but my biggest thing is like these connections. Like, all these events that we go to in the city and like go and have drinks and sit there and listen to the panel are great,
Yeah.
but like it does not like give
Pay
me
off.
the acceleration ramp that I'm looking for because I don't got a lot of time, right? I don't got a time to like go to 20 different events and hope I make a connection in the networking.
Well, Sudeshna is building something that meets people where they're at. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
let's empower Sudeshna,
yeah,
because we need to be met in the way that is realistic for us. And yeah, you can't go to a 3 month, whatever it is, 4 months, whatever it is, accelerator, too slow in some ways, not personalized enough. And then you spend all that time and you're going to get what? Sometimes $5,000. What the fuck am I supposed to do? I can spend a $5,000 in
yeah,
1 day. Right. And I'm
yeah,
sorry I'm swearing so much. I'm frustrated. But, um, yeah, and we need the support, but yeah, how can Sudeshna build an accelerator that meets us where we're at and do something in 4 weeks that, and then support her in getting funding so that she doesn't have to charge us. She can get a sponsorship. And then we commit. Yeah, maybe we might have to take a week off vacation, or maybe it's every Saturday and Sunday for a month that we commit to, which isn't bad, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Plow the pavement. Because the truth is that speed does, whether we want to say it or not, we of course we desire being in flow and liberation and all that. Speed does matter. Speed does matter for startups, right? So it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. Yeah, I never did an accelerator, and here's another problem I find with society is that sometimes we are only accepting startups that do then go into that status quo of community. You know what I mean? Like, is that really going to empower startups? If that makes any sense, right? We're spotlighting, and there's a lot of great accelerators, but then and we need support, but it's like there's a lot of people who are building really incredible things, whether on their own. This was always my way, is like very, on my terms. I don't know how else to say it, but I also trusted myself. That comes with experience and time. And it takes a lot of energy too.
It's a great question, Saira. I totally am with you, Mai. I think I think you hit a right thing. It's what's right for you because your energy is finite. And then let's get to the topic that's a big energy suck, which is people and co-founder dynamics. So Mai, talk to us a little bit about co-founder dynamics because when you are building ventures in multiple ventures, you have multiple co-founders or you're the solo founder, that's fine. But how do you navigate all of this? Because the relationships that you are building, they take a lot of toll on a founder. So, and what lessons have you learned through your journey?
I've made a lot of mistakes in this area, guys. I don't know if I have fully the answer. In some ways, maybe I do. When I started Boss Man, we had a set of founders, and that failed. And here's of course you have to vet people. You have to ask the right questions. You have to build relationship. And the tricky part is that stuff takes time. And in startups, you don't have that time. So I think look to your relationships. I would say that this is the best advice, is look to the relationships you already have. And maybe they may not be in the box of exactly what you're looking for, but at least that trust is already there and the relationship was already there, and they know your quirks and how you work and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, I've failed. I just recently failed. I brought on co-founders for Boss Me In, and there was one thing, an ego got, not from me, a situation happened, and ego took over the whole scenario, and everything was flowing. And I'm going to be honest with you. And the other thing too is you have to vet if they have enough space and time and energy. And sometimes us chiefs, we get excited by things, but we don't necessarily have the space and time. That's something to look at. I really think also, yeah, startup experience, maturity level. And I'm saying across everybody, whether you're Gen Z, whether you are an executive with 30 years experience, I think maturity level matters. Flexibility. Are we willing to risk our reputation, get courageous, be bold, make mistakes for real, admit our mistakes? Those are real things as a founder. And are you willing to get your hands and feet dirty? You are going to be up at 3 a.m. with some bright idea working on something. We can, and I think a lot of people are trying to move towards, okay, I want to box things and only from 2 to 4 on Tuesdays work on, Boss Me. And that is not realistic for a startup founder. Like I said, it is like a baby. It is like a marriage. When you're married, you cannot be from 2 to 4 on Tuesdays. Right. So I think I'm just being, and I'm not trying to be dampen, people's desire for building and creating right now, because I believe that what we're building and creating right now is going to shape the next 100 years. But I'm trying to be very real, and trying to protect you, and I think that a lot of us, what I found from Chiefs is a lot of us have this desire to be founders, but we are not founders, some of us. And that's not a bad thing, but I mean, we have to be honest with ourselves too.
Great point, Maya. I mean, it's a very arduous journey to find the right fit of a co-founder in the
Yeah.
first place. And of course, if you have multiple ventures, that sort of multiplies. Any questions for or thoughts from the audience on, how you are dealing with navigating the whole co-founder dynamics?
I guess like it's kind of interesting, like the time and space. Like if you're a portfolio entrepreneur, you have like multiple endeavors. So then it's like, how does that impact your view of like if they're have the space or time?
The founder.
Yeah.
Well, I had to be honest with myself. I cannot run four businesses, and I have no business being in operations anymore. I did that. It's
Mm-hmm.
my time to hand off, right? In some of my businesses, right? And yes, how much time do I have and what do I want right now? And what a realization for me, my daughter, she's a senior in college, a realization for me is like and this is being very honest, is like I deserve to have my own personal uh, space right now and personal, get a relationship with somebody. You guys, some of you know my story, ex-husband died on. I want some of that, so I have to create the space. So that means letting go of certain things. So again, I think it's really about sitting down with yourself. I think with anything in any industry, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, right now is really about being honest with yourself, that self leadership of what do I really have space for? To be real. And maybe like for me, of course, there's a million things. I want to be the next female Jay Shetty, a person of color. That's not going to happen today. That might take 5, 10 years. But to be honest with ourselves, and that's been one of my biggest mistakes, is I know my power, but a lot of people, how do I say, did not have as much energy as me. And so I know what I can create and the impact I can make. But when you bring people along too, you gotta, it's a collective and you gotta be on people's level. And so I was sometimes very unrealistic. But I think at the same time, as a founder, it's our job to be sometimes unrealistic too. Like we're painting the big dream picture, but then maybe finding a co-founder, that's I think that's what I am good at. I know where my faults are or where I don't have expertise. Finding co-founders that are, more operational or, more realistic and are going to say like, Ma, you're crazy. You can't do that. And be like, okay, cool. Like it's a partnership. So you have to really get to know yourself. That's what I would say.
So, I worked with a founder with a startup, educational. It was awesome, great idea. And the issue was really the founder, who wasn't open, had, open to her own ideas, but not the ideas of the people who she surrounded us, but herself with. And it made for a very, very frustrating experience, because it was her baby. And she didn't want anybody else but any other clothes on it. And so, finding that balance, I'd say for both, like I kind of knew going into it that our personalities may clash, but I had what she needed, but she wasn't able to elicit. She just, and so I think that's, for me, I enjoy that startup, that phase, the ideation, the coming, like seeing it, and then I'm like, let's just hand that off and start something new. But like you, I don't have, for me, it's about the time. Like, what do I have to do day to day to make money to do the fun thing? And as you said, Mai, I appreciate, and I'll congratulate you on having a senior in college. And I heard you were a single mom. Me too. My son's a sophomore, and so it's like, oh, I dropped him off, and now I have some free time. So
You're
what
like
do
naked. Yeah. Yeah.
I?
Now, Gretchen, you bring up a really important conversation because as you were talking, listen, I'm a founder. I've been in moments where I'm like, I don't agree with what advisors are saying, right? And I look back, I think a founder's got to follow their gut. at the end of the day, they're the ones who are responsible. They're the ones who are doing the work. They're the ones who are getting criticized, all that. And I think this is just my perspective, and this is conversation, and just my opinion. I do think we need to listen to founders more. And I'll give you an example. Going into, like, I just think about Boss Man when I did 250 pitches to VCs, and I would hear some comments to say like, she doesn't know what she needs. I'm literally I know what I need. I'm literally telling you what I need. But if there's like this conception in society that it's going to change over time, she will, no, I have a lot of experience. I know what I need. And I think just from a founder perspective, we're not always listening. And we want to put our own ideas in there, our own experience, expertise, but we really don't know if we're really there to support whatever that business, that founder is. I think we need to listen more. Because when you're in an advisor role, you are there to serve.
So, I mean, I get it. I mean, I was brought in, I was an employee, so to speak, right?
Okay.
And I'm like, let's do marketing. Like, I'm not a marketer, I'm a lawyer, right? But my friend is the VP of marketing at this big company, and she'll do it. And I'm like, for $500, just pay her $500. And that's just because we're not going to do the brown woman tax thing. So refusal, but wanted all of my 6,000 LinkedIn contacts to call, it's like things like that where are you being open? I guess my question to you is like, what do you want people to listen to more when you are surrounded by people who have expertise in areas that you may not, and they may be your blind spots, right?
Or who do you feel like isn't doing the right listening?
Yeah, right. Okay, so I hear you. What I hear is, no, the founder, it has to be the right moment. And you guys know this, that you bring on new leadership and people on your team. But there's a responsibility and a maturity in the founder to say, I brought them on. So yes, I need to include, listen, create space so that they can implement what they envision. But I think it's that one is about timing, in my opinion, because if you're in in that beginning formulation stage, it's different when you're like 1-2 years down the road, if that makes any sense. And you have to know your role. Are you coming in as an employer? Or are you coming in as a co-founder? Co-founder has, to me, equal say as the founder. But if you're an employee, I mean, you got to listen to the vision. And I don't know the specifics of the scenario because, of course, your voice matters. And there seems like, some relationship building that could have happened there too. But let me put it to you this way. Boss me in. Gretchen, I hear you. Okay. And I'm on the other side. Obviously, I'm the founder. I'll tell you this. I've had people come in that stance, right? But we as a founder are also watching. We are ultimately responsible for this business, right? And we know too that there's a chance that person will not last, right? And what happens if a person leaves is we have to pick up all the slack, right? So I don't know the particulars, but it could have been a situation from her assessing to say, like, is she going to hang out? Is she in for the long run? That could be. And again, I don't know the particulars, but because I'll tell, it hurts. I've had so many, I mean, there's some people on here, so many people leave me, for various reasons. And then, many different reasons, personal, not enough band space. They were just interested. They're learning, but they're not really in it for the long haul, whatever. They're not committed. There's so many different kind of reasons. But I just want to maybe shed some light that ultimately, again, it is up to that founder for responsibility. And if they are not in the know, and I'm not talking about micromanaging, if they are not in the know of all the details of the business, um, and they lose that person, they have to clean up everything. So it just could have been a timing thing. I don't know, Gretchen, but
But these are good questions that you're bringing, Gretchen. I think
yeah.
people, if you look at the amount of time that as a founder we spend, I think we spend a lot more time on people and managing through these dynamics, and role clarity and decision making and all of that. So I think this is something worth pondering on. We have a few more minutes left, Maya. I would like to ask two more questions. One is like looking back at at your journey as a portfolio entrepreneur, what would you say? What was that one pivotal decision that you made in one venture that reshaped how you approach your other ventures? What would that one decision be? It could be strategic, operational, personal, what have you.
I think with Clee deals, again, that's not a very public company because it's not in the realm of like industries of chiefs and all that. So, what I learned from this business is how much time we waste over analyzing, not allowing ourselves to make mistakes, really trying to get perfection when we just need to go, 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 and we make things so overcomplicated. So overcomplicated. When it's to me, business at the fundamental is I don't know, maybe you guys don't agree, but it's pretty straightforward. You need this, and this. You have your goals. We need to execute. Go, go, go. And then what happens is people make that complicated. So with Plea Deals, I just feel like I'm so grateful for that business that it showed me like it's such a straightforward business in all ways possible that we have opportunity to create efficiencies, that allows to give us more space and time back in our businesses. We overanalyze. We're thinking we're so afraid to make mistakes. I'm telling you right now, if you don't make mistakes in your business, you are not an entrepreneur. Because that's how we learn, honestly. It's not when the accomplishments and the high points, it's when we're like, shit, I fucked up. And you say, okay, I fucked up. We just talked about this, Sudeshna. Like, gotta keep it moving. What did I learn from this? Gotta grow and move forward.
Exactly. This is a great insight, Mai. It's just being open to being accepting of the fact that we will fail. We just sort of pick ourselves back up and keep going. We have 10 more minutes. I want to open this up to the audience. Any questions that you have for Mai? It could, on entrepreneurship in general, or anything that particularly you are facing that Mai can bring some insight to.
I would like to just touch on a topic, and Maya, if you have thoughts on this, I'd be curious what you think. But I think kind of underlying a lot of these topics, both like the search for co-founders, the concept of portfolio entrepreneurship, and what you were talking about earlier about how women, need to step up and help each other out a little bit more. I think one of the things that's kind of missing is the discussion around strategic partnerships. Like we're, in co-founders, we're looking for somebody who is like as all in as we are, which is a lot to expect when, you're trying to build something. And I think, if all 15 of us were building the same thing, we'd be in a pretty fucked situation because we'd all be competing for the same market, the same customers, or if we were all consultants, we would all be competing for the same. Whereas if we think of it more in terms of strategic partnerships, like you and I do a little bit of this here together, it doesn't have to take up all of your time. It doesn't have to take up all of my time. Me and this person do a little bit of that over there. Like that really kind of builds out the portfolio. And then you allow like some of the flowers that grow taller than the other flowers to bloom, but it gives both or all parties kind of a little bit of an opportunity to test run before anybody feels like this is all or nothing for me. And I wonder if that's been something that's worked in any of the businesses that you've worked in.
So Samantha, you're spot on. I think that we, again, as women, have to have more confidence in ourselves that no one can really truly take our true essence, like our uniqueness away, to enter into that relationship. And yes, I think if you do find others that are doing similar things, I think that's a power move, Samantha, because there are a lot of people who are doing very similar things, let's lower the ego a little bit. Let's come together. You can raise money collectively. It's
Yeah.
way easier. You can create a fucking like everyone's going to have their own essence and uniqueness in their products. Like that's a power move.
And
That's
I
a
think those of us too who
believing
are
in
like
yourself.
on more on the consulting side, we worry constantly about like giving it away for free. But it's kind of like you have to give a little away in
Yeah, you gotta
order
give a little.
to, for people to build trust in your capabilities. Otherwise, you're just like,
Yeah, just don't give too much away. That's my
no, of course.
bad
But I
dumb.
think if we all 15 of us gave a little bit away for free to each other, I think, it does come back
Oh, to
around, I
each other?
believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Again, it comes back to having more confidence in ourselves to say,
Right.
like, I know what I have is not going to be exactly like, but we're in the same realm. We're in the same. No, that's a power move. I think collectiveness is really an answer in so many ways. And you share the burdens. You can let me tell you guys know this, but being a founder is so lonely.
Mhm.
The pain, the mistakes, the cries I've had at night, just because you care so much, right? And again, I take responsibility. I created things that are just sometimes way out of the box. I'm a disruptor. So I couldn't, Samantha, to your point, always find strategic partner, but I did. Chief was a strategic partner, Albright. So it's like, um, yeah, I think those strategic partners are really, really, really powerful.
I think that's also a really great way to think of Chief is if there's no benefit to Chief as a strategic partner for you, for those of us who are involved in Chief, if it's no longer a strategic partner, then it's no longer a benefit. But if you can use it as a strategic, which
100%.
like I've been trying to figure out, and I think for founders and entrepreneurs, there are a lot of ways to do that, but they're not taking pains to make those ways evident. That's for sure.
As they're true entrepreneurs, they should have so many successes in this area. So many.
Yeah.
Again, it comes to that confidence. It comes to that, are they paving the way with courage?
It's a great point. Like it's a force multiplier, Samantha.
So many of us have had this conversation. We don't need to harp on that, but like the case studies they could have. I mean, Boss Man is a case study. The case studies they could have. If I were a funder, I'd be like, this is what it's about. You're encouraging other women you've empowered. They've had successes. You've done your job.
Mm-hmm.
They have all the funder. Serena Williams. I mean, look at the funders that are tied to Chief. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Why doesn't Chief have a fund?
They did. They did have a fund.
They did. I could say it would be a conflict. Sorry, I'm not trying to sidetrack. It's just an interesting thought.
That's
their responsibility.
Yeah. Well, they do refer to themselves as a think tank on LinkedIn. So
we're thinking.
Yeah.
No, the thinking isn't enough. You got to put it into action.
Mm-hmm.
So we have time for one more question. Anyone else?
Hi, Sudeshna. Yes, I would like to ask a question.
Sure.
Thank you both for a great session. Myself, I'm Priya Reddy. I'm a first-time founder, and I have a question. If I want to build, I mean, when I'm building something, however, I don't have enough time and resources, and if I want to partner with somebody who has expertise and also resources, so that because for me, speed matters. If I want to take that product to market quickly and also sell through my connections, I would like to see your thoughts on how would you structure that partnership so that it's not only for this product, probably when you want to take that MVP into much more bigger, how would you structure it such a way that it is strategic for your growth?
I think you have the answer. What is it that you need, right? And then I think really laying that down with your strategic partner and being clear from the foundation point of this is what you're responsible, this is what I'm responsible for, I think will set up for success later. But sometimes even that's not enough. I think I hate to say this, but sometimes it is about the mistakes too that matter. But taking a step back, being really thoughtful about what is it you need in that relationship. And it's a negotiation. It's a negotiation. And also think outside the box. I don't know what Samantha does. I don't know, what your startup is. It doesn't have to be so exact all the time, too. Get on a call.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. Just think outside the box. Just
Samantha's
make
looking
clear
for
that.
partners. You're open to it. Get on a freaking call.
Awesome.
Let's do it, Priya.
Thank you.
I'm here for
Thank
you.
you.
That's good, guys. It's time for a wrap. So thank you everyone for joining, and thanks so much, Mai, for these amazing insights and that you shared with such authenticity. I so appreciate you always being true to yourself and just giving us things the way they are and the way we need to hear. So again, thanks everyone. And if you're looking for a community to grow, we have Pioneer. So feel free to consider us. There are a lot of Pioneer members in this call as well. We are here to support you every step of the way. So thank you again. We'll send you the recording in a day or two.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sudeshna and Mai.
Thank you.
Thank you. Fabulous session. Good night.
Thank you so much.